Terrifying. So today we are going to take the poll app that we have. So let me go into that view real quick. And this app. So, oh wow, 66 votes. There was like 40 when I first published this. So let's see. Actually make sure that here we go. All right, everyone should hear me a little better now. Sorry, I realized my mic wasn't hooked up. All right, I am way behind on this one. So let's get going. I'm just going to tweet out to everybody. All right. You always have to tweet. The tweet's very important, you know. All right, so let's get going on this. I'll probably cut all this out in the YouTube editor. But so the point is, right now we have this app, and this is a voting app. It looks kind of like a Twitter poll, and we ask these questions and we provide these options. And then if we select Rocky Road, or whichever one, Rocky Road is just really hammering it home. I don't know if I should have selected Rocky Road now. I'm a bit of a contrarian that way, but we can see these results, and it happens in real time too. So if I'm fortunate and someone votes as I'm in this, you'll start seeing all of the polls shift, which is really cool. So what we're going to do today, though, is you can see that we're on localhost 3000, and this is the only. Oh, we got a little bit of a vote, but this is the only route. It's because there is no route. This is literally just the one page. So what we'd like to do is add some routing in. So maybe we could say /polls/ice cream, or it could be a custom ID, but I'd rather have it look like that. And then that way you can create other polls and it starts becoming more dynamic. So let's get working on that. So let's see. Check the chat. Oh, Eli's back. What's up, Eli? I don't know if y'all saw, but Eli Lucas had the pretty awesome tweet with people margin 6 feet. I imagine that's one of those tweets that you think of really quickly, and you Team Butter Pecan, you think of really quickly and you write it and you're like, everyone's gonna think that's dumb, and then everyone's like, that's the greatest tweet ever. I imagine that's how that went. That was a phenomenal tweet. All right, so let's get going. All right, so I'm gonna pull up let's make sure I actually show my screen. OBS, so I'm gonna switch out editor, yes. My biggest fear is that I start coding this without actually showing you all my code. All right, so right now we don't need to worry about the actual view itself, the page. We're going to start with the app. So what I have already gone ahead and done for the sake of time is I've installed Reach Router. I'm not sure if this is the latest version anymore, but it's probably pretty close. I think I installed it like a couple days ago. So who knows? So let's go to this, and now I'm going to import from @reach/router, and that will allow me to get a router. And the way that this works is, if you've never used React routing before, or React or anything, that we have, the router works as this top level component, and we can nest our other components underneath, and then we specify what the path is as a prop. And so what this is going to do, it's going to, actually I'm going to pass that as props for now. And so for path, let's actually just say /. So that's going to be the root path. So that's not going to break our app right now. And what we can do here is we now want to, what I like to do is look at the props that Reach Router is going to give us. Because you could try to just destructure out path and then see what comes back, but Reach Router gives you a lot more stuff. So it's really important to take a look at everything you're being provided. So let's save and let's check this app out. And I'm going to check the comments really quick, see what people are saying. yeah, your thoughts on that tweet. Exactly. It was a great tweet, Eli. You should be very proud of yourself. And yeah, stuff like that tends to, you don't give it a lot of thought. And it's your greatest work. Usually it doesn't require your best thoughts. It's funny how that works in life. Let's see. So let me switch the screen. And here we are. All right, so if we look here to the top right, we have this object. Let me bump it up because that's small on the screen. All right, so this is what we have. We have path / URI / location, navigate, and children. And well, children is for a lot of React props. It's any children components you pass down. But we have location, so we get lots of really cool stuff. And this isn't we're not really using it to its fullest extent. So what I actually want to do is let's break this route. So if polls / ice cream, nothing's happening because we don't have a condition for that route. So let's actually go. Can I move this? Is this going to move for me? There we go. Let's actually go and see if we can get some IDs or some route parameters working. All right, so let me go and switch the tab. So what I'm going to do now is instead of just / let's say polls, and let's say ID. So now we'll save. And then when we go back into the app, it's loading, and aha, as you can see that this is not a lot, it's a little different. And we now have the ID of ice cream. And so this is very useful if we follow a structure like this, because when we follow this structure, we can go into the database. Oh, there's my rules. We'll get into that in another live stream. And we see that we have polls, ice cream. Just like here, polls, ice cream. Now it doesn't have to mirror one for one. That's not a requirement at all. But a lot of times that just ends up being a much easier mental model to say like, okay, I'm going to build this app. Let me, mirror this out. If it works for the routes, if it doesn't, that's fine too. But in this case, the one-to-one mapping actually works out pretty well. And so that way, when someone routes, I can just grab this ID and then dynamically start, populating the data. And I'm actually going to do a new poll. And I know what I want to do. I'm going to ask the audience, what should our poll question be? And our poll options. So I want to solicit from the crowd. Let me go to the chat. Let's see here. So what should our poll question be? Because there's a lot of good questions out there. I just got to think one on the top of my head. So like we could say, so we did ice cream flavors. We could do the age-old GIF question. Could be Emacs, Vim, tabs versus spaces. We could do, I don't know. Let's see here. Best JS framework. Jeff, are you trying to get me killed? I got one. Okay. Let's call it API best endpoint. And so the question is, what is the best kind of API endpoint? So I want to see if anyone else has anything better. Favorite season. Seasons, that's pretty good. Season, because it's actually kind of interesting. It might seem boring, but it's not, because someone's like, oh, what's your favorite season? And someone's like, winter. And you're like, why? It's so cool. And it turns into an argument. Favorite flavor of butter pecan. Eli, I really admire the consistency. What is the best API endpoint? And then I'm going to just start there for now. So we have the question, and then I'm going to add a field. And I think what I'm going to do, what did I call it? I think it's just options. I want to make sure I don't mess that up. Yeah, it's just options. So I'm going to add the options. and that's going to come back as an array. And I'm just going to enter this as JSON. And I think the ID, so the first one will be like it's a JSON API. And text is JSON. And then the next one, we'll say the ID is gRPC. We have a gRPC. And then the third one, I'll just stick it to 3 for now. It'll be a SOAP API, because who doesn't love a SOAP API? All right, so I'm gonna, oh no, I didn't do something right with my oh, because I need to call it an object. Ah, man. Oh, map, sorry. And it's gonna, I always forget this. It's called a map. Okay, so then the ID, I always mix it up with the real-time database. With the real-time database, you can just enter JSON and it maps it right away. With Firestore, this is a nice little teaching lesson of the difference between the real-time database and Firestore. So real-time database is a JSON, like a NoSQL real-time JSON database, so everything is based off JSON data. In Firestore, the data types are much more complex, and so when I just tried to feed that back as a string, it was like you're feeding me a string. Whereas real-time database, everything's JSON, so it's going to be able to smartly know, like, oh, you're trying to just map that as an object. So whereas Firestore is very explicit with this. All right, so the ID we'll have as, this will be, first one was JSON, text, JSON, update, and this one will change to map, and ID, gRPC, text, gRPC, and then SOAP. So map, and so the ID is SOAP, map is SOAP. Here's a good question for the chat. When was the last time a box of mountains? When was the last time you used a SOAP API? When was the last time you used a SOAP API? I think the last time I used a SOAP API was 2011. Yeah, it's been a while. All right, so now we have best endpoint. All right, cool. So now let's go and make sure that this will work for both of these. So we have options, question, we have options, question. Oh, I called this map for some reason. I need to edit that. Let's see here. I'm probably to delete the whole thing because arrays in Firestore are immutable. Well, the key name at least. So let's delete that. And now let's add it back in. Map, text, or ID, SOAP, text, SOAP. ID text. All right, cool. Ideally, what I'd really want to do here is create security rules that validate the schema. But I'm playing fast and loose right now. So maybe before I hurt myself more moving on, I need to go and actually write security rules. So maybe that will be the next live stream, is let's write some good security rules. All right, cool. So this is working, that is working, and at least the data exists. And let's check the comments just real quick. Oh, hello. Let's see here. We still use one to pull flight schedules. Thank you. I have to work on it. Yeah. I mean, if you have a good like serializer or, a good abstraction over it, then, maybe you just pretend that it's not so bad. It was about 3 years ago, which is way too soon. All right, so let's switch the screen back to the editor. All right, so here we go. All right, so now we have these props. And what we saw is that gave us the ID back. Actually, oh, I should have looked at that one more time. All right, so let's go back to the browser. My bad. I'm all over the place. I was not prepared. All right, so what we want to do is we want to grab this ID. And so we can see we can do that by tapping into props.id. And that's because we have this colon ID. If we called it colon poll name or poll ID, we would have this .poll ID property, which is cool. All right, so now we'll go back to the editor. So what we want here is we want to take the ID from props and we want to pass that into the vote view. So vote view doesn't have this right now, but I'd like to pass in like poll ID is ID. And so now if I go into vote view, let's collapse some of these functions to reduce the noise. Let's do poll ID, and then just for fun, we will console.log the poll ID to make sure it's working. So let's save. Now let's tab over. All right. Yes, switch the browser. There we go. We get ice cream. So let's do a refresh just to really make sure. And we get all these re-renders. I hope for development mode. I think if we went to prod mode, that would not be the case. I hope. So let's now go back into the editor. And there we go. All right, so don't need to log that anymore. And now this is where the doc, instead of hard coding that, we now have poll ID. And so this will work for anyone because it's, just like a route parameter at this point, because it is a route parameter. Funny how that works out. Save it, and I'm gonna check the comments, and let's see here. I use soap to wash my hands every day. That is a great habit. Let's see. If I would say who thinks this is going to work, but by the time I answer that, the latency on the stream will be too high. So let's go into the web app, and now I'm going to just tap on things. All right, that works. Now let's see, what was it? Make sure we have this spelled right. Best endpoint, and if we do that. What is your favorite kind of endpoint? JSON, gRPC, SOAP, awesome. So that works. And so like at this point, all you'd really have to do is create you just create like a poll editor where you would, how I went in by hand and did all that, you would have some UI that went and created that. Before you get to that though, I'd like to get it to the point where we can log users in, which I'm not sure if we'll have time for that, but let me vote for SOAP. Obviously. And then if we go into the editor, let me make sure that I am, okay, good. All right. Always want to make sure I'm showing the right screen. If we go into here, we now can see that there's this votes sub-collection. And what's cool about it is in the last episode, last time on David's live stream, I explained that the way that I create the votes is lazily. So we have SOAP with a count of 1, and then we don't have any of the 3 options there. So that's why in the code I map over all the options, and if the votes don't exist for the options, I just create an empty vote count. And that way I don't have to manage documents that I don't have or I don't have to care about. So what I'd like to do now, because a poll is not fun with just 1 vote, is I would love to just go and deploy this app, and I'll show you how to deploy it. So I'm going to build it with React, create React apps build, and then I'm going to deploy it to production, and then paste you all the URL, and then we can all vote and watch the screen move around. So let me get back to the editor to show you that. Let me check comments here and see. Everyone else is also eating ice cream while watching this, right? Gary, I like the way you think. See, David, is there? Yes, there is a place where the repo lives. I will find it here in a little bit. It's one of the most recent GitHub repos I have, and it's not very well organized. I'm working on organizing it a little better for that, and it's a little further ahead than we are today, but I will send that to you and you can look at it. And all right, so let me go and switch out to the editor. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to create a production build. So with create React app, we get these scripts in package.json. So if we go down here, we have this script for build, and it does React scripts build. So it just does this nice little, production build for us. So I'm going to write yarn build to kick that off. And this is going to take, this takes a hot minute. I probably should have thought about this before. So I'm going to go back to the comments while this is happening. And there are no new comments because of latency. But what? Let's see. I guess I could ask another question. I can't think of a question. I guess. What is everyone going to vote for? Is everyone going to vote for? Because I assume we're all going to vote for soap. Soap. Am I right? I hope when people watch the replays of this, they make sure to look at the chat. Otherwise, it was going to be... they're going to be like, this guy, what is he doing? What's my favorite CSS/JS/UI framework to work with? My favorite CSS framework, that one's easy. I love Tailwind CSS. I think it's just like the greatest CSS framework out there. It's, that's, heavily biased personal opinion, but I love Tailwind. Tailwind for CSS. Maybe I'll do this on the live stream. For the longest time I've wanted to, Tailwind's really great because you create this configuration in JavaScript where you can specify what your colors are and your breakpoints and all these other really cool variants, and that will generate out a big CSS file for you, and then you get all these nice little utility classes. And I find that with Tailwind, I don't actually have to write a lot of CSS, but you do have to generate it out. And one of the things I've wanted to do is actually create like a nice serverless Tailwind endpoint where if you send it some JSON, it will send you back some built CSS. I think that would be cool for some build pipelines, and also just sounds like fun. All right, so here we go. So we have that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to tap into what it takes to deploy an app on Firebase Hosting. So you could do the, you usually do npm i-g fire-f-g firebase-tools, and then after that you'll have access to the Firebase CLI. And then a lot of people will do Firebase init hosting, and then they go through the step-by-step process. And that is a very simple way of doing it, and it's a really easy way of doing it. But what it actually does behind the scenes is it creates two files, .firebase.rc and firebase.json. And right now the way this works is that Firebase RC is just a JSON list of these projects. And so you have a default project, and that is the default one. You must have a default project, but then you can also create aliases, and you either can do it by hand here where you would say something like staging and whatever the staging app is, and then you can have prod, and then at the Firebase CLI you would do something like this where you would say Firebase use staging or Firebase use prod before you would write Firebase deploy. And then if you switch off default, you can still write Firebase use default. So we're on default right now, so no point to try to use anything. And then Firebase.json, if you kind of ignore this emulators thing, we'll get into that later. The minimal key you need is to say hosting and then tell us where your public folder is. And in this case, create React app spits everything out into a build folder. So that's pretty much all there is to it if you're going to do it by hand. But again, if you use Firebase init hosting, you won't have to worry about any of that. This is just more so like how, it's done behind the scenes. So now I'm going to write Firebase deploy, and this should not take very long, I think. And it's uploading. And boom, it is up. So what I'm going to do now, I think it's just meepoll.web.app. And that's another cool thing too. Oh, it didn't recognize it as a website. There we go. So let's pull that up in the live stream. And go to the editor, or the editor of the browser, and I'll do me pull.web.app. And oh, that's not good. That shouldn't pull up like that. But anyways, pulls/ice cream. Oh no. What did I do? Did I not build it, or is that a browser cache issue? Oh no, what did I do? And it's not working, is it? Okay, so now we get to debug live. That's always really fun. I really just wish this was a caching issue, but it is not. Why does this work if I go to here? Or what if I do? I want to make sure that this is, no, not com. This is the other one. Okay, yeah, so if it's working the same on those. Oh, I think you need to tell hosting to treat it as a single page app. Jeff, that is why you are in the comments. Thank you. That is another lesson. And I always forget this after I've been working with Firebase Hosting for about almost 6 years now. And I forget this all the time. So what I believe here is, so hosting allows you to, so with Firebase Hosting, you basically have this static asset hosting service with some dynamic hosting capabilities, which that's another lesson for another time. But since you don't have to write a web config or an Nginx config or Apache config or whatever server config, we just really simplify it. So we allow you in this key to do certain things. Like we say, where do your files live for public, but we also say you can do things like specify rewrites. And then with a rewrite, you can say the source, and I can say everything, ***, which is a glob. So every file should go to this destination of index.html. And so this might sound a little counterintuitive or scary at first because you're like, wait, you're going to rewrite every single file to index.html, because that means you could be rewriting images in JavaScript, and then every bit of your app, including index.html, is going to point at index.html. And that is not the case, because Firebase Hosting has this golden rule of if the static file exists, you serve it first, regardless of these rewrite rules. And that makes serving your app or writing rewrites really simple, because you don't have to worry about overwriting you don't have to overwrite static apps, and so your JavaScript is still served to where it's stored, and everything is still served where it's stored. So it's a really easy way of doing that. All right, so now do that, and let's do a Firebase deploy. And if I'm lucky, oh wait, let's see, no project active, probably because I messed with the Firebase RC too much. Let's see here, what folder am I in? I'm in the right folder. Oh, there we go, I need to save that. All right, so now when I do Firebase Deploy, this will actually be really fast, and that was lightning fast because Firebase Hosting has this .firebase thing where we actually cache what files have been uploaded to the server. And since all I did was change the firebase.json, it was super fast. All right, so now I get to cross my fingers that I did it right. And let's do that now. Let me go into this, switch to the, oh no, was I in the code editor the whole time? Okay, I'm not really sure if I was. Let's go into the browser app. All right. All right, so let's do me pull.web.app. It's still, all right, so I'm still not feeling very good about this. Man, what did I do? Oh wait, there we go. That was a caching issue. All right, so that's because we had the old app cached. So I was about to be like, oh no, I messed up. And I like to look at this app as a phone, so I'm going to turn on the editor, and it's in responsive. Let's pick a iPhone X. Why not? All right, and so now if I vote, now it's all vote. Let me paste this in. I go to chat. Yeah, I'm sorry, Gary. All right, I'm going to go back and look at it. 1 second. I know. I'm really bad at this. It's hard. I'm on a 13-inch MacBook, so if that makes you have any more understanding of my situation, that I do this whole streaming thing of multiple windows, all on a 13-inch MacBook, which I think is just a feat in itself. So basically what I did was I went into firebase.json and I said, okay, here's these rewrites. The source, whenever you see any file, rewrite the destination to index.html. And as I was saying before, a lot of people might be scared of this or might think this might not work because it's going to rewrite every single file on the server. But we actually ignore all static files that exist. So if index.js exists, we're not going to rewrite it to index.html. We're only going to rewrite anything that does not exist. So poll/ice cream does not exist. It's just a route that gets rewritten to index.html. So that's how rewrites work on Firebase Hosting. All right, so now I want to see everybody voting. So I want to switch back to the browser app and let me, in the comments, paste this. Yeah, I actually been thinking about iPad Pro plus Sidecar. I have to update my OS to the latest Catalina, I can't remember, and I'm very reluctant to do that while I'm at home. I'm afraid that, because I'm doing this all on this computer, and I'm afraid that bad things will happen, and I'm stuck at home right now, and then I won't have a computer that works anymore. So that kind of scares me. All right, so I'm going to vote for vanilla. And let's see if we can get a lot of votes in here and see the things start changing. So everyone just vote like crazy. Oh, because you can, oh, here we go. It's starting to vote. Let's go. Oh, look, the shapes are changing. It's a battle between Rocky Road and Chocolate with vanilla as the dark horse candidate. 88 votes. See, this is cool. Not a lot of code, and we now have one poll. So now let's go to the we're gonna go over 100. Oh, vanilla is mounting a comeback. This is the content you came for, right? Best endpoint. All right, now I'm going to paste that into the chat. So let's vote on best endpoint. So I'm going to vote for SOAP again. Let's be real. And let's see. Who voted for JSON? Oh, JSON's really. My opinion on everyone. I thought everyone would just jokingly vote for SOAP. Now that was quite a crushing win by JSON. Wow. That was pretty cool though. See, this is the type of stuff that makes me happy, and this is why I love doing Firebase development, is just seeing things sort of just so simply being built. Just not that many lines of code, and we got this cool real-time voting app. This is always just fun for me. All right, so I think, how many minutes has this been running for? 34, and I came a little late, which I apologize for, and I thank everyone for waiting around for me. So I think this is where I'm going to leave it at today. What I'd like to do next time, let's go to the editor to take a look at what we can do next, is I would like to actually have a component that does this. I'd like to make it so when you try to vote, so either we'll write security rules, which I'll have to go and do a little bit of testing on that to make sure I'm teaching you the right thing. But I'll either write security rules, or I'm going to do this thing where if you click to vote, it's going to prompt you to log in if you have not already logged in. And so I actually have a sign-in modal component that does this. And pretty much what happens is, as this is open property, and so if it's open, it's going to stretch the full length of the screen, and then if you click outside of it, see, there's this unmask click thing, which is inside this modal. And this is like a basic modal that you could do for anything, and so set some class to have it closed and open. And basically, yeah, so if you click on the vote list and you're not logged in, we want to prompt you to log in so you can vote. And then once you're logged in, allow you to vote, and then we can start tracking votes. Actually, we probably won't track votes from a logged in user. We could, and then you could have like a profile page where you could see all the things you voted on. So that could be an option too. So that's what I want to do next time, either write security rules or start adding Firebase Auth into it. So thank you all so much for coming out. I'm gonna check the comments. Last time, just say, yeah, and thank you all, and I'll maybe do this again tomorrow. This is my 3rd day in a row, and I've been super enjoying doing this every single day and just hanging out with people. That's I really kind of sometimes think about doing this at night, just being like, whoa, I'm up at night hanging out with people. But we'll see. If you're interested in doing more streams with me, just let me know. All right, everybody. I'll catch you later.